Be with you in 2 minutes. Stand by.
Hello, everybody. You are at all the feels. What's happening in your emotional life? And I am Patricia Angelin. And as you see, there is a book right in front of you by the founder of Alba Emoting, Susanna Block. Alba Emoting, a scientific method for emotional induction. To let those of you who would like to do so, Susanna Block's English language book is available on Amazon. And of course, all proceeds go to Susanna Block herself, who is retired in Chile. And we are here to answer your questions. And I will get myself in frame here. Oh, I just have to say to you guys, you see that the book is a little bit glitchy, for lack of a better word, and that, oops, hello, what did I just do? I need to turn this camera around, and I am now not quite sure how to do it. Oh, there we go, camera. Mercury is retrograde, men and women, women and men, even the dogs who might be, and the kitty cats who might be in attendance. Mercury retrograde means that the ancients looked at the skies over the past 5,000 years, and it's about 3 times a year for about 3 weeks at a time. They observed that the planet, which became named Mercury, appeared to be going backwards in the sky. And they also observed that since Mercury is the god of communications, that communications get messed up during these periods in the year. And what just happened with me, since I've done these with you before, but yet I couldn't find, the turn the camera around. So we're all okay, but we will say that that is Mercury retrograde. So we are met, and I am grateful to be with you in this February of 2021 from part of the Alba studio. But the reason that book is a little bit wonky is because there was a major flood into the Alba Technique studio in New York about 8 days ago. And poor Susanna Block's book, which I will show you again, got wet. So I am going to have to order another one of Susanna's physical books for me, so that I will be able to have a clean and pristine book to put up in front of you when you join me for this. All right, let's get into it. This week, we have a very interesting question that has come in on public speaking. But before that, I would like to address 2 things for you. One which is general, and for future, for those of you who have been joining me perhaps with some regularity, and for those of you who look at us on YouTube at the Alba Technique YouTube channel, to which I would ask you to subscribe. We don't put up a lot of content, but I think that everything that we do put up will be helpful and supportive to your neurosystems, and your emotional system, your limbic system of brain, will be happy if you engage on any level at all with us. So, one is, how do you ask a question? When I first envisioned this happening and giving to all of you kind of in the moment, in the questions that you would put into chat, I did not think about the fact that most of us don't know how to talk about our emotions. We don't even know how to talk about our emotions to ourselves. So how can we frame a question for Patricia Angelin at Alba Technique about what's going on with myself, with ourselves, general, specific? So the questions that have come in tend to be along the lines of, you know how it's always kind of silly done that, you know, in stories that people are telling, if they want to ask a question, but it's, you know, very personal to them, they'll say, I have a friend who, and then they'll start talking about it, you know, they dissociate in a good way from their own problem in order to put it in through the left brain, to frame it into words, to get it out there. So it occurred to me when I was thinking about the question for today about public speaking, that most people, our emotions ball us all up into little knots. And so how can we get through the knot to even know what question to ask? It's an interesting question of itself. So how to ask the question is when we don't know what to ask and how to ask it, what words to use. Because for many of us, and for almost all men in masculine functioning, the parts of the brain that deal with the emotions will, to some degree, often, especially if it's strong emotion, will shut off the critical functioning of the brain partially. And so that is a very interesting thing to know, is that we can get emotionally balled up about our emotions, but not know how to talk about what the emotion is or emotions are that are involved, and how to even ask the question. So I understand that. And short of doing live Alba emoting emotional pattern, effector pattern work with you, in which I can gradually teach you how to go to the different parts of brain that allow you to learn and discover how to frame questions for yourself about your own emotional functioning and about the emotional functioning of other persons, dear to you or not so dear to you. So that was the first thing I wanted to say, and I had made a note to myself about that. And somewhat in regard to my answering of those questions, a joke came in, or which we take as a joke anyway, from the good strong right arm currently in Oklahoma, Mr. Ron Burton. And Mr. Ron Burton was sending me something which is very amusing about me. And those of you who have worked with me extensively will recognize this. I apologize in advance that there is language in this that is, you know, it certainly triggers, for lack of a better word, me. But so I will apologize to you in advance, but it is part of the point. And so I quote from a post that Ron Burton saw. I'm not sure if it's Instagram or Facebook, but one of the two. And it says, quote, I just don't understand where this mercurial behavior is coming from. The reply is, what the fuck does mercurial mean? Like, capricious. And then he says, bitch, I asked you to define the word, not add another unknown word to the mix. And he sent that to me with all the love in my heart. Sometimes, Patricia Angelin, this is you. And going back to the question I started with, sometimes, all minds work differently, of course, and even within the universals of emotion, each emotion in the moment is always absolutely unique to each one of us. So one of the things that happens to me when I am startled with a question which interrupts my train of thought, this will speak to the main question today, so be prepared, is my mind doesn't go up into a ball where it can't express itself. It goes into an intellectual place where it grasps the word that has the most precise meaning that I mean to convey to the person in that moment. But what Ron's talking about is that sometimes the person doesn't understand what that word means. And so observing that the person doesn't get the word I use to express the exact chain of meaning that I was using. So the joke is definitely on me, but the person asking the question is trying to stay with me and stay with me. I will begin to use synonyms or a metaphor like a cone or something like that until the person gets what I'm talking about. And this works, but it's also very, very funny. So I would like to ask all of you who listen, if in the course of answering any of the questions here that we're dealing with, a word comes out of my mouth that you think, whoa, what does that mean? You'll probably, being intelligent people, get it in context of the whole thing. But if you don't know what it means, go ahead and put it in chat. Ask what that means. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Pat. That's not a word I've come across before. Whatever. And then that will help me to further hone in on the specifics of the question. And so you would help yourself in your understanding. You'd help the questioner of the question I am addressing. And you'd help me to become more clear in my communication with other persons. Me a great deal, as I say in class. I do have a sense of humor about myself, so I am fine with you asking questions of me. And if I'm not able to address the question that week, I will address it the next week on either Facebook Live, where we are today, or Instagram Live, where we will be next week at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Okay, on to the main question. The main question is once again a very difficult one because it is, as most of these questions that are coming in now, when it's initially asked, is quite general. And the question was about public speaking and about what can I do in public speaking when I have unsolicited advice from the audience that is inappropriate and I have a visual reaction to live input from an audience. So I queried this, and because right now I figured it was probably about a Zoom kind of a thing, because almost all of us are on Zoom around the world right now. But I thought, boy, that is a very interesting question. In public speaking, well, it would first of all depend upon what the forum is, right? And the forum could be, let's go to old-fashioned. You're on a dais, and you're in front, so you're on a raised platform, and you're in front of a podium, and it's being filmed. Almost everything is now, either to go onto a YouTube site or to be, used educationally, sold educationally, or whatever. So, but let's say it's live, and you're at a podium. That's one kind of a problem. If it's a formal sort of a speech. And it's another kind of a challenge. We won't call it a problem because it's a challenge if, say, you are a comedian and you have to get the input from the audience, and you have to learn to react to the audience's live input, even if that live input startles you and is negative for you, and you're a person who has trouble with getting criticism and taking the criticism in, processing it, and then going on with what you are doing. Which I think I have just stating that's the central problem, no matter what format and platform of public speaking we're talking about. So once again, it takes a knowledge of the self. And when one starts to public speak, one needs to be aware that there is always, for everybody, I hate it when these drop downs come in, excuse me. There's always, for everybody, an element of an uptake neurologically of our own anxiety, however that manifests in our individual bodies. And the reason that is because we don't know what to expect. Now, some of us have a much easier time being more flexible with what to expect and what not to expect than others. It's kind of like some people are more flexible physically after working out than others. Some people are more naturally flexible. They're almost double jointed like a circus acrobat. And some people have to learn to be more flexible, and some people have to learn to be more strong in working with the muscles and soft tissues and bones in the physical body. Well, we're talking about the mental body in a way, and so when you go into any public speaking format, including the one you and I are in right now, I'm the one who's on the spot. So of course, if something hits me that I'm not expecting, even if it's a thought of my own, there's going to be a little bit of an uptick of fear. I might not identify it as fear. I'm too busy talking to you. I'm doing this, right? I'm in it. So I might not, I probably don't, and didn't until I'm starting to take this apart right now, aware that there is a little bit of anxiety in there. And that's okay, because my nervous system is saying, well, you don't know if you're going to answer this question right, Pat, and is the person who asked this question going to be satisfied with this answer, and what time is it? Right. How long do you have? Can you do it? Can you do it, woman? So there's all this stuff happening, and the same thing happens in public speaking. If you're a comedian or a comedian in front of people, you're live, or maybe it's for Comedy Central, and you have some control because it's not a live tape, or it's a live audience. You're always having to, and you don't mind the heckling, if you will, because you figured that out, and you figured out how you're going to deal with heckling within your set, your comic routine set. So that's one kind of public speaking, and comics have to figure that out. They just absolutely have to figure out what their own way of dealing with that is, and that's kind of obvious, but I think it's worth stating, because the rest of us who are not comedians, we have to figure that out to a degree too, if we're going to be involved in public speaking. And the only way that you get good at that, like everything else in life, is by doing it. And that's a good thing too. So to go back to my specific querent, who is asking about public speaking, I got back to the querent and said, in regard to your question, can you specify for me a little more? And I'm sure that put the questioner into specify more, but I asked my question. But since the questioner wasn't in front of me, there was time for the questioner to think about it, get back to me. And the questioner said that the setting was a live stream service setting. I said, okay. And was this something you chose to do? Was it work related? And the questioner said, well, yes and no. It was work related, but I wasn't being paid for it. It was something I chose to do. And furthermore, it was to bring in money for charity. So our questioner for today is a person who is desiring to do good, is desiring to give to other people. So we already can extrapolate that this person is a sensitive person, I think. Now, not everybody is. Most people think they are. Some people are more sensitive than others. And our sensitivities can really get into our way. And here's an example. As a very sensitive person myself, sensitive not in, oh, I'm sensitive, but sensitive in that I am aware of my surroundings, and I have just been made aware that there's a sound coming into my space that you guys might hear and you might not be able to hear on the iPad that I am streaming to you from. And that is that the heat is coming up, I'll show you, on a riser pipe across the room. It's this riser pipe, and that riser pipe clanks and it makes a lot of noise. Now, since I know myself well enough to know that I am an auditory sensor to the point of in some ways wonderful, in other ways very challenging, high extreme, any sound that comes into, that grabs my attention is I experience as an interruption. It makes me go, what is that? And then it makes me mad. So this goes, just now, I mean, how fortunate are we that the pipe started to clang? It's stopping now. But just to warn you, you know, it may start up again and it may get really loud and sound like we're at the opera and they're playing the Anneville chorus from a Wagner opera, you know, the Valkyries and their anvils. So that does speak directly to what the questioner for today is asking about, because the questioner is doing a thing, the live stream, doing it for charity. And when I asked one more question, I said, are you speaking in this live stream, or are you auctioning things off and being a moderator in this live stream? The more you guys give to me in the question, the more clearly I'm going to be able to answer the question in this forum that in a way that will be actually useful to you. So the third time questioning, we got really specific. It was a live stream service setting, and it was, as so many things are right now, within the context of a game. Many people are doing this right now. You know, game night. And some of the games that they're doing are like, you know, online we're all playing Scrabble. And other times it's more and more frequently from the young people who are talking to me, it's video games. And they play the video games together apart. And of course, video games require, I've never played one, total disclosure, and I never will play one, probably. But they've been around a long time, all the way, and I'm from the Dungeons and Dragons era, so I understand. So what is happening to the querent is that the questioner is live streaming for charity and trying to raise money for the charity. So the overall goal here is not the game itself, it's the raising of money. And I do think, questioner, that is what as you're going to think about this after hearing this, that's what you have to take apart for yourself. What is my goal? My goal is to make money for my cause. And so everything before you go into your next live stream for the game needs to be processed for yourself in that that's your goal. And so if you get an interruption, whether it's in the live chat or whether, I don't know whether there's another way for people to interrupt you, whether it is like the pipe that was in this room, or whether it is, you know, if you're in an apartment building, something thumping above you, or is that a leak I hear, or whatever. The point I think for us to think is about for yourselves is, how am I being interrupted in my train of thought when I'm doing something that is on a real trajectory for me? And especially with video gaming, you have to be really mentally flexible to do that. So if somebody is interrupting you constantly and you're trying to do a thing, it almost doesn't matter what the thing you're trying to do is. Your limbic system of your brain only knows that somebody is coming in and interrupting you. And then the left brain goes, yeah, interrupting me. over and over and over again with something that's stupid. So yeah, I now get what this question is. So if we're live streaming and the question, the person or people probably, say they're trolling you. Say it's something like, why are you wearing your hair in that stupid way? And all you're seeing is below that somebody has just criticized you for your hairstyle. And you're like, what does that have to do with the cause that we are going for? And now I've lost my place in my game. So you're going to have first a fear reaction, and then you're going to have on top of it an immediate anger reaction. So I think the defense for that, and I might have to do a follow-up on this, because this is something that has, like the question that we dealt with before of a difficult person, of a volatilely difficult person in the workplace. This is different because these people have the power to make you appear less professional in your live stream, less open. And the big problem with that is not only for the questioner as to how the questioner looks, I'm talking about the physical here, and the aesthetic. It might drive people away from the central point, which is making money for the cause. So here's my suggestion for now, querent. My suggestion is that you take this away and think about it and write down for yourself. Get a blank piece of paper and a pen in your hand as opposed to a typing thing, because it needs to come out of a different part of brain than you will get if you sit in front of a keyboard. I promise you. You'll get more bang for the buck out of this particular exercise if you do it with a nice white or lined piece of paper in hand, and you do the exercise of letting yourself think about, okay, what happened during the live stream? How many times, if you can figure it out. I mean, I don't know whether that is available to you. But if it is available, if you could look up, if the chat is available to you on that particular platform, it might help to look up how many times you were interrupted within the time frame that you had allotted for the gaming task, and look it up. And with this piece of paper in front of you, look at how many times, and in your, what in actors would call sense memory, in your body recall, which we all have if we allow our brains to go there. Remember, as far as comes up, what you actually felt physically when these, say it was a half an hour live stream and you were interrupted 10 times. Say it was by one person, or it was by 5 different people who were basically all saying the same thing. Once you figure out what happened to you emotionally during the time, then think about, after you got off of the live stream, what happened afterwards? Were there lots of thoughts coming in like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that and I should have gotten onto the chat and I should have told them to shut up and I should have, told them all these things? If you do the what if and I should have, and some people process that way, it's only helpful in a limited way, but if you give yourself only a short amount of time to do it, it can be helpful if you can then let it go afterwards. So do that and write these things down, questioner. Write them down. And our goal, yours and mine, is for you to begin to know yourself better from that particular platform public experience. And that will then help you to take more control of the experience the next time you do it. Or it might help you to decide that, this is not the way for me to do this, because this is too, as I like to say sometimes, vexatious to my spirit. If you were getting more and more and more vexed by people interrupting your train of thought and telling you what to do that was completely irrelevant to what you were actually doing, then you want to put boundaries on how you do that again. You also want to get to the main point with yourself on your blank piece of paper. Did you make money for your cause? If you made money for your cause, yay you! Wonderful! Then you did what you set out to do. And you need to, on that piece of paper, at the bottom, say, I did it. I did it. I set out to make money for a cause that I judged to be worthy, and I accepted the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune in the form of people stupidly telling me what to do when it had nothing to do with anything. And I am a person who can take it. And then, before you decide to do something like that, whether for that cause or for another, you go, okay, I don't want to subject myself to the same vexation of spirit. Get that little phrase in your head. Patricia Angelin says, do not allow a vexation of your spirit to go on and on and on and on. There are lots of people out there who need to tell other people what to do. And they need to tell other people what to do constantly. And they run rampant on the internet. And many of them, that's the only way they are able to feel themselves. And that is not your fault in any way. And you naturally are not suffering the fools gladly. So you need to form some boundaries in the way that you publicly speak so that they cannot vex your spirit as easily. I think that's the thing, the blank piece of paper and figuring out yourself. And so I thank you all for joining me. And I would ask you to think about some questions. It doesn't have to be huge, monumental questions, just things that you think about how your own or the people you love and care about, what they do emotionally that you have observed, and please share those things with us. Also, I would request that you in comments share with Alba Technique and with me how this is helping you, if it is. It would do me so much good and give me such an uplift to know that the words that I thought were not the words that I was going to say, but I'll say them because this is a kind of a forum where we're wanting to be able to be coughed. It's not, I don't feel that I am casting my pearls before swine. Not at all. Those of you who are here, it's a lot easier for each of us if we are not feeling like we are in an internet vacuum. It's kind of the opposite problem to what the querent was asking of us today. You know, what do I do in public speaking when people are being annoying to me? What am I doing if there is resounding silence in the universe? So with that, I will let you go until Instagram Live next week at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I thank you all for joining me. I will turn the camera around, and there you see Susanna Bloch's book. And we are together apart. Bless you all.